Welcome to the Seattle Investors Club podcast with Julie Clark and Joe Bauer, where we share the nuts and bolts of real estate investing from our 20-plus years in the industry. Sit back, relax, listen, and immediately take action. Are you ready? Here we go.
Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing podcast. My name is Joe Bauer, and I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic in the hood, Joe. I think today I'm going to call you the lovely Joe Bauer. Or maybe, I don't know what I should. I got to come up with some good adjectives for you because you're always throwing them out on me, even though you skipped it again today, but that's fine. All good. All good. Busy here in the Seattle real estate scene. What are you up to?
Yeah, I'm just outside of Bryce Canyon National Park in southern Utah and working at a Starbucks.
Ooh, actually, we went on that. The girls and I did that Bryce Canyon backroads trip. Was that 2 summers ago? Super awesome stuff.
Yep,
are you going to Zion?
We already did Zion, and we kind of did a shorter trip. I think we were there for 3 days and did a couple of pretty crazy hikes, and then we'll go back again in the fall.
Did you hit the Angel's Landing there?
No, I've done Angel's Landing several times, and we were there over the weekend, and I'm sure, as you know, it's just like a stampede of people headed up there. So
/ death trap when there's a stampede of people. Yeah.
Totally. So we went up at Angel's Landing. There's a point where you go up the switchbacks, and I think they call them the Wiggles, and then you can actually cut off to the left and go to the West Rim Trail.
Yep.
So we did that, and it was about a 16-mile loopish thing. So that was super cool. We probably only saw like 20 people. That loop.
Nice.
That was cool.
Good stuff. I remember Katie, my daughter, I think she was 8 at the time, and they were riding the mules down in Bryce. Yeah. You know, it's kind of steep, and like on the steep bends, she said, "Mom, my mule kept like falling asleep right on the on the steep part." I was like, "Oh my God!" So she had her own experience that day, but
that's great.
Yeah, so I'm trying to transition here, talking about falling asleep on the steep part. I think all of us here in Seattle are wide awake again with our improving market, we'll say. I think we're about to find out because today we have Todd Britsch with us from Metrostudy once again, back to give us the update on how the Seattle market is doing. Todd, what's going on?
I'd say not a whole lot is your typical answer, but no, it's kind of just the opposite right now.
Yeah. Can't wait to hear your perspective on that. So we have had you on before, and we usually do like the whole deep dive onto, you know, how'd you grow up? How'd you get in the biz? And we'll skip that today because we'll point people to our previous podcast with you. Joe, maybe you can link to it in the show notes. And maybe we'll just jump into the good stuff today. I'm sure that your phone, Todd, is ringing off the hook with everybody wanting to get your take on what's the skinny on the market, how's it going. So fill us in. What's happening?
It's funny because it's just the opposite right now. My phone kind of quiets down a little bit when things start to improve. It was after we last met when we really started to see the market shift on that downward cycle. And I can honestly say it was feeding off of the fear perpetuated by the media. You were reading all those articles. If you remember, we talked about the articles in MSNBC or CNBC and the Seattle Times and multiple other news outlets that continued to feed negative data on the Seattle housing market. And I think we talked about at the time that even if we had turned off in-migration, turned off job growth last year, we still had pent-up demand for some 36,000 owner-occupied homes. Well, now you flash forward and we're 6-7 months later. And yeah, the market was really bad coming into the third and the fourth quarter. But my gosh, 2019 started and it's completely flipped. And rather right on cue, to be honest, after the announcement that New York was not going to be taking the Amazon second headquarters.
Yeah. Who saw that coming?
Yeah. Thank you, Ocasio-Cortez.
Jesus, man.
For boosting Seattle there and Bellevue. And so now we've got Amazon moving into Bellevue, and I had anticipated them moving about 7,000 to 10,000 people out of Seattle over to Bellevue, and that kind of came to fruition with moving the worldwide headquarters over into Bellevue. But that still leaves space for an additional, that's another 18,000 people roughly.
Yep.
25,800 total. So yeah, little over almost 16,000 more people that can jobs to grow in Seattle, or in Bellevue.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy is that the Amazon, my experience is they don't necessarily can't afford the home prices that are, if Bellevue is going to escalate even crazier. I find that the Amazon crowd is not like at $1 million. The average Amazon person, maybe is in the $800,000 strike range, for a house, which is, they're in the most competitive zone, has been my experience so far with at least the Amazonians calling me.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as they hit that 850 threshold, even with interest rates the way they are today, that seems to be the breaking point for many of them.
Right. So what I'm saying is that I think there's going to be people that are working over there and still living over on this side of the pond. What do you think?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. I don't think many people are going to, they're not going to pack up and move because their office commute went from 30 minutes of 15 different bus lines to 30 minutes I've got to go against the grain of traffic and go over to Bellevue. Now, that said, the number of the employees that are coming in that are new are not going to choose to live necessarily in Seattle. They'll choose to live over on the east side somewhere. And whether that's Bellevue or Renton or even Kent, somewhere in those neck of the woods.
I bet you Renton gets a good lift off this too, right?
Renton will get a good lift. Everything up into the south end of Snohomish County will get a pretty good lift out of all this. I mean, we're not even talking about 2,500 for Facebook. They're coming in. Google's hiring again. I think within 50 miles of Seattle, there were some 64,000 jobs posted currently.
God.
And Amazon's already got, I think last I checked, it was 5,600 jobs in Seattle, let alone what they're going to do in Bellevue.
Yeah. Where do you just go to like the company's website for her hiring page to see that updated info? I was talking about that to somebody on Tuesday that, just talking about the job stats at some of these companies, right?
So I'll go out and I'll hit the individual companies, and then I'll go out and I'll look at Indeed seems to have the best platform, easiest platform to use.
Okay.
Find those job postings, and I believe they rank them out by potential salaries.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I have, one of my transaction coordinator actually works for a big builder's broker that does a lot of townhouse sales and, dirt stuff. And then of course, list them back and things like that. And those are sitting even in the Greenwood, you'd think some of the hot areas. Are you getting any feedback like that, the all the townhomes aren't moving as fast as maybe some of the single family seems to be taking off pretty well? Is there an oversupply that needs to catch up? Why do you think and maybe I'm wrong, or what are you hearing?
No, it's the buyer profile. So when you look at the townhomes specifically on anywhere with Seattle, from North Seattle to South Seattle, roughly 20 to 25% of our buyers were Chinese investors. Those buyers have not come back. And then
that's right, because their money situation is harder, right?
Yep. And then on top of that, when you have the Amazon buyers that fall out of the market, there goes your townhome market.
Well, now, do you think though it'll resurge because the Amazon people are back?
It will, but I don't think Seattle's going to bounce back nearly as much as it is on the other side of the water.
So maybe being cautious if you're buying and selling for your clients townhomes, on being sensitive that they're maybe the stepsister right now. Is that the ugly stepsister a little bit on as far as appreciation or pricing, or do you think don't overthink it?
Well, you can never. Caution is the ultimate word. Specifically, if I'm looking in Seattle, and if I'm looking at a piece in Seattle, I'm going to walk before I even contemplate buying it. I'm going to get out and I'm going to walk a mile in each direction on my own, and make sure that I don't have a homeless camp anywhere near me.
Good point, right?
That's going to have a massive impact on your house.
Well, let's talk about that, the homeless camp thing, that whole Seattle is dying article or whatever that was.
Wasn't that phenomenal?
What's your take on all that?
I think it was absolute spot on.
Joe, we're going to link that to the podcast. We'll find it. Just, Google Seattle is dying and link it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's not a homeless issue. The homeless issue is completely different than a drug epidemic. And that's where we're at. And unfortunately, the Seattle City Council treats it as if it's a homeless issue. So let's, again, and I think we talked about this last time, put a roof over their head, give them a safe place to do drugs and clean needles. Now, I've got a close friend of the family who's been clean and sober and off heroin she's going on about 14 months now. And now, when she was using, she would tell you, I'm thrilled. If the city's going to do that, I'm all in. And she will tell you now that she's clean and sober, that is the absolute worst thing that you can do. Anybody who's clean and sober will tell you that's the worst thing you can do, because you're enabling them to live with a roof over their head, putting food in their belly and heroin in their arms. You're just slowly killing somebody. And it's just not the proper way to handle this epidemic. And that was addressed in the show Seattle's Dying as well. And I can't remember which state it was that was handling it properly. Right now.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. Everybody should read that, but I like your comments about whatever you're getting ready to buy. I guess whether you're a builder looking at a piece of dirt or even a homeowner, right?
Yeah. Even if you're going to flip a house.
Flipping a house.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Non-owner-occupied buyers are no longer there.
What's that?
Your non-owner, non-occupied homes. That's your foreign investors.
Right.
Now, those, I think they're going to come back, to be honest, but you can't count on that. I think as soon as a trade deal is done with China, which we're continually getting closer, that will end up freeing up money within the Bank of China, and the Chinese nationals will start flooding back into the marketplace again.
Yeah, well, I'm closely connected and aligned. I actually just changed brokerage firms, but the brokerage firm I just left in the last 24 hours is called HomeLink International, is actually the U.S. brand of what's called Lianjia, which is the largest or one of the largest brokerage firms in China, headquartered in Beijing, but with offices all over China. And I was just talking to my friend inside there, and they had a Chinese buyer even coming this weekend. So they're still coming. It's just a slower drip. And, coming from our Chinese office, what's going on is that they're coming still, but, they're buying in Florida and Houston, where the market is cheaper, where they're getting their cash flow, not maybe the appreciation. But we have a hard time attracting as many of some of those other states just because of our high prices. And sure, we have appreciation, or we've had, but our cash flow isn't so great. So, it's not exactly perfect for their number one buying criteria. Does that make any sense to you what I'm saying? That's at least the feedback that I get from our China team.
And from what I'm hearing on a national scale is they're buying in that 500 and under range. We're not seeing the $2 to $3 to $4 million acquisitions right now.
Yeah, we never did in our office, really. They like the $300,000 range actually too. So Pretty crazy stuff. Another little feedback I've heard from, just networking with my own crowd is that, the Upzone happened, right? So the whole MHA thing. And when I've been going on a lot of leads, all of a sudden my phone started ringing off the hook just from years of my own marketing of people that, sellers that are in the Upzone. Is fantastic, actually. But what the feedback I got as I started going through all those deals is that there's actually a lot available that's fully permitted because people got that spanking at the last part of last year and are offloading their projects, just cleaning up their plates. You hearing anything like that? That there's a lot of fully permitted stuff available. So having to, buy something that you got to wait however long to get your permits and pay the fees and everything else is, a nice opportunity, but they can kind of rock and roll with fully permitted stuff right now that's available. Are you getting any feedback on that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I had pulled some numbers last quarter in regards to the townhome projects, and it was King County itself. I want to say I actually have those numbers laying around my office somewhere. About a 2-year supply of townhomes that were sitting on the market. Everything that was actually selling and then everything that was under construction. So then I went through and I started looking at all of the lots and the parcels that were under construction where they were just moving dirt, getting ready to go vertical. And that added about 1,300 additional units, strictly just townhomes, into the market. And that starts to add another 23-month supply. So like King County right now has got a 23-month supply. If we take Seattle, all the submarkets, West, South, Central, and North Seattle, there's about a 22-month supply. But as soon as you start adding in everything that could potentially be coming out of the ground, we start adding up to another year in King County. So I think there's almost a 4-year supply in King County that are selling, under construction, and or they're moving dirt.
Jeez. Do you have any stats on our inflow of population?
Yeah, we're holding steady right now into the state, still coming in at about 8,000 to 10,000 per month. Now that may ramp up again coming into the next couple of years. And then, of course, on average, 63% of those flow into the Central Puget Sound, 36% specifically into King County, almost like religion.
So what does that mean on the math on the division? I'm too lazy today. I'm going on spring break tomorrow. I'm starting to get short timers disease, if you know what I'm saying. So the math on the oversupply or the several years supply versus the influx of people, does that put us in a okay spot, or what's the reanalysis on those two conversations we just had, putting them together?
So right now, if you do the math on the total that's coming in, so roughly 3,000 people on average per month are coming into King County. So then you have to make the assumption that those are driver's license. So you make the assumption that 2 of those drivers are living together, whether they're roommates and
right,
or married or however. So that's 1,500 units. And then you take a 53, just make the math easy and say 50% home ownership rate for those 1,500. That's 700 new units needed per month in King County. Now, that's from a demand scenario, right? So that's not necessarily meaning that we're going to sell that many homes because the units are so expensive in King County.
Right.
What we find is people move into King County when they first come here. They may work in Seattle or Bellevue. They rent an apartment, and then they start to get the lay of the land. Where do we want to live? How does traffic flow? And consequently, they'll end up moving either north or south or a little bit east or wherever they need to go that's going to fit their lifestyle.
Yeah.
The reality is that's the demand scenario that we're seeing every month is still upwards of around 15 to 1,800 homes per month.
Yeah. Crazy. That's good, right?
It's great.
Yeah.
But, again, this was a shot across the bow last year with all the things that happened in June last year between the Seattle City Council, their Amazon head tax, the lack of the Chinese buyers, change in interest rates, and pricing continuing to escalate at the pace that it was because of bidding wars. We did see about a 9 to 10% reduction in the median sales price and price per square foot specifically. And my fear is that people start jumping back into the market again, and specifically investors, and they're going to buy property improperly and anticipate that valuation going up by that much. I'm not saying it won't. What I'm saying is don't plan on it, because if you do plan on it and it doesn't happen, you're gonna lose a lot of money.
Well, and they already did. I'll tell you that. I know a lot of them. What the issue is still, even though it seems like things are going great, back on, moving forward here right now, things are moving along nicely. We've lost what we had before, in my opinion, that no matter how great things start moving forward in the right direction again here at this time, we've still lost the valuable thing that we had all those several years to this run up, which is the predictability, the reliability and predictability of the market. And right now, holy smokes, I do a lot of listings, and it is hard to price the houses because the comps are all over the place. And that those ones that sold October, November, or even, that second half of the year are not necessarily the best for comping. It's started a downward spiral, and we're now on this upward. You could probably come up from there, which I think you can, but how much, right? So what's going on that I'm noticing is that brokers who like to make themselves look good are underpricing homes. They're very timid in their approach right now. So they list them too low because they're looking at what happened at the end of last year as their comps. And then all of a sudden there's multiple offers and it sells for $50,000 or more over the list price again, and people are like, oh my God, it's happening again. Well, no, because we're not at a place of peak and it's still happening. We're now at a place of 10% drop and trying to figure where are we landing on, going up. And do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's when I pull comps now, if I'm pricing something out, I will not go back and look at anything prior to even December, really.
Right.
And if I don't have any comps at that point, I will start to go further back in time, but I'm going to drop 2.5% every month. And I'm going to look at if all of my comps, I'm going to look at days on market. If it was under 10 days and was it above ask, because the bidding wars that were going on, those essentially stopped in July. I'd say July was probably the last time we had any bidding wars at all. But then we started to see primarily list price drop more so than sales price. You'd read the articles again and they'd say the median list price has dropped by 15%. Well, it shouldn't have climbed by 10% the month before, but okay.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a new metric and underwriting for the comps. I think in about 60 days we're going to have enough closed to kind of help us out in that regard. What do you think?
Oh yeah. Right.
So we just hang on, everybody. We just got a little bit longer, but for all you flippers out there, yeah, I mean, you guys need to be. I'm sure if you're been in the game for a while, I don't even think we have to tell you to be cautious because you're scared as shit because you got beat up, in the last 6 months there. But so it's interesting what we're talking about here in regards to, the things that impacted us, maybe the Chinese buyers cooling down, the head tax thing, the New York Amazon thing. And now then it's turned around. Now the news is turning around the other direction. But what do you think what do we need to be watching right now in the news or as triggers to help us or hurt us? topics and things are you watching?
I'm still watching job growth. I think we talked about this last time as well. The inverted yield curve, I think, is the biggest news media piece that we're continually hearing about, at least if you're watching any of the economics. An inverted yield curve has predicted every recession going back into the 60s, essentially. And while the Treasury notes have inverted, the 2 and the 10-year Treasury yields has been the true predictor of a recession. Those have not inverted yet. The 2, the 3, the 5, they've all inverted with the 3-month yield curve, the Treasury yield curve. So again, you're starting to see the media probably 2-3 weeks ago in headlines saying, triggers or leading indicators into a recession have been triggered by the yield curve. Some economists say yes, some economists say no. My take on it is the reality is the one safe thing that I can always say is there's a recession coming, right? There is. There just is. There's always one coming because they happen. With the change in regards to the potential job growth here in the Pacific Northwest, when there is a recession within the next 24 months or so, we will skip right over the top of it, I believe.
I mean, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Just because if you look at our job growth that's happening, and Amazon moving the second headquarters into Bellevue, and again, Facebook opening up a facility in Redmond for 2,500 employees, among many other groups that are continuing to grow here in the Pacific Northwest. Now, that said, there's some larger secondary banking issues that I'm seeing within the market that are happening. I've got to do some more research on it to see exactly how deep that goes. And essentially what that is, this is my larger concern, equity groups, private banking groups are borrowing a tremendous amount of money from banks and loaning it to people that couldn't get loans from banks. So they're borrowing the money at 4.5% to 5%, lending it out at 8 to 12 to organizations, to companies, to individuals that couldn't go to a primary.
We're talking hard money lenders.
Yeah, it's hard money, and it's even private equity groups.
Yeah.
I started to read some disturbing news on some of the debt that these equity groups are taking on. So if you look at the number of merger and acquisitions that have been occurring across the country, it's a staggering number. And the trend that is starting to be seen is happening in the commercial realm. It's the same thing that occurred within the housing realm 10 years ago. And that is that you've got private equity groups that are buying up companies. They're leveraging all of the assets within that company, and they're getting bank loans for that company. Then those bank loans are getting bundled up into CDOs and sold off onto the secondary market. And then consequently, when you've got these companies that are fully leveraged and we've stripped all the cash flow out of them and the debt has been sold off onto a secondary market, if there is a recession that runs potentially modestly deep, then you'll start to see these companies be strapped for cash with high debt loads. I don't know enough about it yet, so maybe we can talk about it next time I'm on, because
we'll be knocking on your door in about 3 months.
Yeah, I just started really kind of digging into it. There's about $57 to $59 trillion worth of secondary notes out there that are not being regulated. So these banks are lending money again to REITs and to private equity groups who are then turning around and lending the money to people that couldn't get primary loans.
Right.
It's a lot of money.
Right. Yeah. Or you know what's now I might not make any sense. So you're saying that the people that are borrowing or essentially have this money that they're turning around lending it to the people that can't get loans. Are we talking about, when you say businesses that are leveraged, what type of businesses are they buying and leveraging all the assets on?
They're all over the board. They're from retail chains down to mom and pops.
Right.
That's the scary thing. I mean, it's every kind of company that you can possibly imagine.
Not just a real estate related company,
No,
right?
No. Very few of them are actually real estate related.
Right. Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Right. Oh, what about how's commercial going? The commercial market in Seattle, because the scary thing about that is buildings can look full and still be in trouble because they have leases, right? And they get the spanking when their loan matures or something like that, and they have to pay it down. Remember that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's that look like right now on the commercial side of things? We're talking residential, but
yeah, from my understanding, vacancy rates are still incredibly low, and Class A space in Seattle and Bellevue is becoming some of the most expensive in the country.
Yeah, we were talking. We have a Tuesday mastermind every week in Tuesday. If you ever get bored and you'd like me to buy you a burger, we sure would like you to show up. We go to the Elliott Bay Brew House and Pub every Tuesday from 12 to 2. And there were so many people that showed up on Tuesday. I actually walked up the stairs into the thing, and I thought I was in the wrong place. I thought it was somebody else's meeting. And I turn around and I go, oh my God, I know all these people. And I go, oh my, where the hell did you guys all come from? It was totally awesome. So if you guys who are listening have not yet been to our Tuesday mastermind down in Burien, which is just a loose roundtable mastermind, free coaching, we get like experienced investors answering all your questions or just talking shop. It's super fun. No agenda. We just show up and then all kinds of great things happen. If we could twist Todd's arm to come down and buy him a bunch of beers and burgers someday, that would sure be a nice birthday gift for me, Todd. But we can twist your arm down there. But
yeah, do that. You had me a beer. I mean, my God.
There you go. Exactly.
Just give me a bourbon aged ale and I'm good.
Yeah. Now all I can think about is beers and burgers, so I can't even remember what I was about to say, to be honest with you. I can't even remember what we were about to say. We were talking about
we were talking about the looming stuff out there that I see, and that's really my number one concern. Like I said, I think that with Amazon sticking around, we're going to skip right over the top of any recession. We may slow down here inside the Pacific Northwest, but I don't see anything out there looming that could be incredibly deep outside of the corporate secondary banking that I was just talking about. And
I mean, frankly, as investors, if the market tanks, it's great for investors that know how to play ball other than, one lane ponies there. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing. It would be a bad thing for the people that are holding properties, but, if you know how to pivot in real estate, you can make it work in any market. It might be actually good news for certain people and, that know what they're doing, but obviously not for the people that are going to get the spanking on the way down.
Hey guys, Joe here. I just want to take this super quick break from the action to let you know something that we have really cool to offer you guys. As you know, marketing is the lifeblood of our real estate business, and Julie and I spend a ton of money sending out postcards and letters to people all around the Seattle area. We've partnered up with YellowLetters.com to get you guys 10% off all of your marketing needs at Yellow Letters. All you have to do is go to YellowLetters.com, and when you check out, use the code Seattle Investors Club, and you'll get 10% off any of your marketing needs at YellowLetters.com. You can send postcards, letters, whatever it may be that YellowLetters.com has, so that you can keep your marketing engine running for a little less money. So go to YellowLetters.com, use the code Seattle Investors Club with no spaces, and get your marketing going today. All right, let's get back to the action.
Yeah, so the biggest risk, are we saying the biggest risk right now is just the kind of bumpiness while we smooth out, especially for people who flip and stuff like that? Or as far as if you're a builder right now, how are you feeling?
Modestly optimistic. I think for the new construction guys, they've still got a huge concern, because when we look at Sales velocity through the beginning of 2019. Pierce County is kind of lagging, because we talked about this last time as well, that Pierce County is kind of the last geographical area to react to the market. And King and Snohomish County on the resale side for pending sales, they were up 12 to 14% for January, only in single digits for February, primarily due to the fact that we had snow and it shut down the region for 2 to 3 weeks. And then again for March, we were up in the high single digits, close to 12, I think, for the resale side of things. New construction fell so rapidly moving into the third and fourth quarter. So like I said, July was up 5% for the region. And then August down 8, September down 12 to 15, and then the next month down again. And we peaked out at somewhere around between 38, 39% towards the end of the fourth quarter. Just incredibly steep numbers. Markets don't do that. The only time markets react that way is if you've got all of a sudden Boeing goes out of business.
Right.
Or Amazon packs up and moves out of town. None of those things occurred. So it was primarily everybody reacting to fear.
And you know what? But don't you think, Todd, that the world has changed with technology and the 24-hour easily click a button and get all the news, that reaction times, this is my first thought when this happened. Like when I was in the summer, I was like, shit, that stopped and dropped on a dime. Where's the roll down? And I can't help but think it's because people are just more have information available these days than in historical comparisons. And so they can react faster. And so all the reactions, it's bad news for us almost. It can be good news if it's on an uptick, but bad news is that when it slides, it's going to happen damn fast because of the availability of information at your fingertips compared to even 15 years ago,
Yeah, and I'm going to pick on millennials here a little bit because...
Close your ears, Joe.
Yeah, because I've got a couple of them, and I'm good at it.
Lay it on.
Well, some 76%, I think this was a stat that I read, 76% of millennials read the headlines and not the content. So when you Google something one time on your phone, all of a sudden you're going to get this flood of stories that are relating to that. So if you tick on or search by housing market decline, all of a sudden you're going to start getting all these feeds. And what happens is, because it is instantaneous, because media from all over the country now floods into your network, especially if you just read the headlines, because what are the headlines there for? They're to get you to click onto the report, onto that article, to read the article. So even the Seattle Times, when it said inventory jumped by 41%, Seattle could be beheaded for the largest fall in years. And, well, was it the largest fall in years? Well, hypothetically, yes. I mean, prices have fallen.
Right. It's a play on words, right? Yeah. Right.
Now, even that, I don't think that was the Seattle Times intent. I think their intent was or the thought behind the article was, God, we're headed for a major collapse. But you've got all these millennials out there, that's how they're getting their media. And they're not all of you guys understand that. So if you're sitting there behind your computer going, well, this son of a bitch. No, not all of you. It's just the majority. It takes a tremendous amount of studying and due diligence, and at least read through the article. And then don't take that article for gospel, for God's sakes. Do your due diligence. Because in this particular marketplace, we had the decline that began in June and it lasted through December. And if you're just now picking up on it, that it's starting to tick upwards, or let's say you listen to this podcast finally in August, well, you've missed the mark by 9-10 months. Your buying opportunity, your negotiating opportunity window is over, at least for that prime negotiating power. Well, gosh, I've done, I think, 13 speaking events already this year. And talking about the prime buying power, it's going to take the general population at least 6 months to figure out that the market's really ticking upward and why it's ticking upward and how steep is it going to go. And I think if we start looking forward through the rest of 2019, we're going to start to watch days on market start to drop again. Right now, we're sitting at 40 days on market. That's just a little bit above normalized market. And even with sales falling as far as they did and listings being up some 75 to 80% in King County and 60% in Snohomish County, we still only have on average a 1.4 month supply of homes sitting on the market. That's it. That's nothing. 3 to 4 months should be your equilibrium, your average for a normalized market. And we're not even close to that.
Right.
Now, you do have to price your homes properly. And I think you brought up a really good point. We have a lot of young, inexperienced agents. Well, whether they're young, middle-aged, or old, it doesn't matter. Inexperienced agents that don't know how to price homes properly, and especially when it's in a market like this where comps are hard to come by.
Yep. Yeah, you got to know what you're doing right now. So even if you're out there and you're listening and you're thinking, or somebody in your family is thinking of buying or selling their house, damn well make sure that you're using an experienced agent. It's important right now to have experience, not just the cheapest, right? It's a skill set game right now, guys, if you get what I'm saying. So, by the way, I'm available in case anybody needs that. Help for myself there. That'd be, just Julie@SeattleInvestorsClub.com. You can find me. And yeah, so in general, let's just sweep it back around here so we can keep it short and sweet today, and I'll get excited about continuing forward we're lucky to be in this market. I mean, we're unlucky because it's expensive, but we're lucky because we get a break from the crap that happens in the rest of the country a little bit with our, awesome economy here locally. So we are cautiously optimistic. Is that it, Todd, that things are moving in the right direction?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, for me, when I look at the marketplace, we're not going to see a lot of appreciation. At least I am not going to factor any of it in. I can say this, that I've been telling all of my builder clients for the last 6 months, don't raise your prices in 2019. Modest, 2-3%, fine. 10% bumps, don't do it.
Right.
Now, that said, I'm still going to have 1 or 2 or 3 subdivisions here or there that may do that. But the issue that you're going to run into, whether you're flipping a resale house in any given market, is if you anticipate a 10% price bump because, gosh, there's no inventory, that can change literally overnight. And we've seen it in every geographical area throughout the central Puget Sound lately, where all of a sudden, for whatever reason, we get 30 listings that show up in this new MLS area, 30 that are above and beyond what we've seen over the last months. And I can tell you, if the market does start to heat up, you're going to see a lot more listings hit the market. These people that pulled their listings off last year are going to throw them back on with maybe some more realistic numbers.
I want to interject here for a second to my friendly listeners here. You tell me if I'm wrong what I'm going to say here, because I'm just talking it off the top of my head. I think it's a good opportunity to, as we're at a lower risk, as we are slowly increasing here, or we're picking up a little more steam and people might get excited, rather than go for it, as Todd is telling you to keep yourself under control and not project forward too much. There's a great opportunity to get a lift on kind of what I like to call, for you flippers, is a prehab, meaning buy it off market, and you don't want to go crazy and over improvement and blow your budget and all that stuff like you normally do. There's an opportunity to just clean it up as best you can and throw it back on. And as we're on a rise up right now, and you might get your nice little hit just by doing that, rather than, taking 3 months to rehab a house and all the problems that go with it. Go part way and throw it back on while we're going on the rise up right now. What do you think about that, Todd?
Yeah, I kind of like that. I mean, don't be tearing down walls. Fix up the master bathroom. Fix up the kitchen area.
Right. And my little side tip on that, guys, is that buyers have changed a little bit from my experience hanging, doing my day-to-day stuff. So they won't buy like a year and a half ago. Flippers are competing with regular old retail home buyers who want to buy the crappy house and say, I'll do it myself. I just need a house. Those buyers are not buying those anymore. They do not want the house they need to do full improvements on. They want a move-in ready. It doesn't have to be blinged out, but they don't want to like have to rip out a kitchen and put one in, is my current experience. A year and a half ago, they would do it. Now they won't. So you kind of gotta, maybe you guys hit me up at julie@seattleiinvestorsclub.com. Maybe we'll talk on this more, but there's a fine line. Sorry, a frog in my throat here. You need to take it a little bit further than the heyday of the prehab that I was doing, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. You need to take it one step further, improved or cleaned up. But I think it's a great time just to buy stuff off market, bring it to basic market ready with a little bit of cosmetic upgrade, but not a full flip, and ride the wave up a little bit until we have more stability. That's all I'm saying. You can thank me later or not, or you can, or it won't work, but that's kind of
what's interesting. I mean, last year, our first quarter was still a really good quarter. It was some of the best that we'd ever seen. And our sales are significantly above and beyond that. So it's going to be an interesting spring and roll into summer.
So what do you recommend for the little investors out there, little or big or whatever, that are going after these upzone properties? And, do you think the market is good for slinging properties that are in the, upzone?
Yes. I mean, every little submarket is going to be different. Wallingford is going to be different than Ballard and different than, say,
right.
You really have to know how much inventory is coming online. The problem I have with all the upzones that we have right now is, again, you look at the amount of inventory. There's a 2-year supply of townhomes sitting on the market already. There's 1,300 that are breaking ground. Those are the units that are for sale right now. Those are the ones where guys are getting a little bit nervous because they're infill builders. A lot of these guys used hard money, and they really took a hit at the end of the year because the homes that they had anticipated selling in 30 days sat for 4 months, 5 months. That carry cost is outrageous on
right. So they drop their prices, and then you're like, shit, you can get that for that. Now it's messing up some of the houses even. I mean, it's a weird, like you can get a new construction townhouse. I mean, I've been shocked at some of the, I'll say, deals. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I think it trickles down when they start lowering their prices, affecting other product types, not just other townhomes. That's what I'm feeling a little bit.
Yeah. I had one of my builders, he called me he was an infill builder, called me in March because I had told him there was a slowdown coming in 18, pretty significant one. And so he calls me in March. He goes, dude, I just raised prices $100,000 in Seattle. There's no slowdown coming. That was the last sale that he had. That was in March. And as we rolled through the year, obviously, we're continuing to talk every month. And what he consequently ended up doing, which he thanked me for, he says, I wish I had put more money away, but I took what you said to heart, knowing that there was a slowdown. And he put over $1 million away to cover the carry cost of all of his units.
Right.
And that's what he did. So then we ended up repricing some of his stuff, and he dropped some of the pricing on it, liquidated most of his assets. Didn't take a loss. He just wasn't making his huge profits that he wanted.
Right.
And then turned around and started buying up other stuff, preparing for this next wave that's coming in.
Right. And buying at a lower price than he was buying before?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How does the MHA fees, are you think builders are choosing just to pay the fees if they can get the dirt for the price that builds in the fees? Or are they they're not going to actually, they're going to build the affordability part, or they're going to pay the fees?
Which fees are you referring to?
Like the MHA fees or whatever?
You're going to be stuck paying whatever fees. I mean, before you go build anywhere, you've got to understand the mitigation fees. And Seattle is part of the reason why you're going to see some slowdown in Seattle is the fees that they're charging in Seattle are just ridiculous.
Right.
So we're going to see the entire migration out of Seattle for a while until they get a new Seattle City Council in there.
So where do you think's the hot markets for builders got to build. So where are they going?
I really like Seattle. I still like West Seattle. You're going to start to see stuff move even further down towards Burien, Des Moines, Kent, Renton. There's really not a lot of space to go north at this point. I really like actually Everett still. You can find stuff really affordable in Everett. I wouldn't go north of Everett. That becomes a larger challenge. But the Everett waterfront is going to get a complete facelift over the next 5 years. And everything that you see up on top of that hill, up above Providence Hospital up there is just prime real estate. And it's still cheap.
So we'll see you guys all there driving around next week. Everybody listening is going to be out driving, like, hey, you guys want to meet for lunch when you're all out there in Everett next week? Because, everybody's going to pick this up and run. But that's hilarious. Well, totally awesome. Anything else you want to leave us with here before we wrap up and bookmark you for maybe 3 months, 4 months down the road?
It's going to be a good summer. And I think here's my caution for the end of the year. Okay, the third and the fourth quarter of this year are going to seem really, really good comparable to last year. But if we continue to see the price acceleration, I will be throwing out some red flags. The shot across the bow was, hey, this is all we can afford right here. And we've all pushed well above that threshold. So you have to know where that threshold is, no matter where you're going, whether you're in Linwood or Shoreline or Everett or Bothell. There's a threshold. An example, I got a client of ours that we had designed a small subdivision on his property. Well, he wants $1.3 million homes on his property that will overlook his existing house. And it's Linwood. The problem is that that's $500,000 over what the person can afford.
Right.
Well, that's what I want. I understand that, but that is not going to work. And my fear is that he's going to finally find a builder that is going to do it because they're desperate for land and desperate to build a home. And then they're going to sell one house every 6 months, if that.
Right.
Gosh, you got to know your markets.
Right.
And this market here in particular, for the first time home flipper or the guys that have only been involved for 2-3 years, that rode the wave up until last year, and may think they're really experienced, and then got burnt at the end. And oh well, gosh, I learned my lesson. No, guys, this market we're heading into is even tougher. Because yes, we're seeing job growth, but where are those people migrating to? How far are they willing to travel for work? Where exactly are they working? What are their income levels? Do they have kids? Do they not have kids? What are the kind of homes do we flip them into? What kind of amenities are they looking for? There's so much information that you need to understand.
Right. Totally crazy bones. I agree. One of my favorite things you said, though, today, just as a recap, too, before we jump off, is that you said, anybody who's buying anything, walk, what'd you say, a mile around your property or something like that, and look for homeless stuff. That's a good tip. One of our great friends that shall go unnamed, bought a flip, this is years ago, and a damn homeless camp moved across the street in the middle of his flip. when he was working on it.
Yeah.
So we have an expert if that ever happens to anybody on in our world, if anybody's interested in ever having to deal with something like that. But well, this has all been good stuff today, Todd. We hope that we can twist your arm to come back to us, every quarter or close to maybe every 6 months or however often we can nail you down. And no joke, if you ever feel like coming out for burgers and beers on a Tuesday in Burien, when you're down there looking, since you named Burien as one of the hottest markets on your list there, go down there on a Tuesday and find us at the Elliott Bay Brew House and Pub. It's so fun. I think you would actually enjoy it, and you'd be such a value add and such a celebrity surprise guest.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I actually, what I really enjoy is sitting down and, while most of the time it's my brain getting picked, I love to pick everybody else's brain because it's just more.
Well, this is the spot. It's so awesome. I mean, we literally just sit around. I have a private room at Elliott Bay Brew House and Pub, and every Tuesday, whoever wants to show up does, and that's exactly what we do. Sit around, talk shop, and it is absolutely. I'd say it's one of the best moves I've made in the last, year is doing that format. So we'll send you an invite on it, and you can just show up some Tuesday if you ever feel like it. But for all the rest of you guys that are listening, I've said it about 10 times, so you know where to find me on Tuesdays. And in addition to that, I will tell you that I have a 100% free, enormous, giant gift for all of you listening, not just UCL Investors Club members, but a little special sauce on top for you guys. But in order to find out what that gift is from me to you, you're going to have to either text me or you're going to have to email me. So you can email me at julie@seattleiinvestorsclub.com, or you can text me at 206-910-2985. Just don't text me past 10 p.m. or you will get a different type of surprise. All right. So anyways, that's it. Joe, you got anything else to add today?
Well, the show notes are going to be at seattleinvestorsclub.com/73. And remember that it's free to subscribe to this podcast. So make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Right on. Right on, right on. Todd, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and I'll catch you guys later. When you guys are listening to this, you're listening to this right now. It's probably a Friday, and I will be in Charlotte, not Charlotte, but Charleston, South Carolina. So that'll be awesome. Leaving tomorrow.
Nice.
So yeah,
I love it down there.
Little spring. I've actually never been there, so I'm super excited. We have a big beach house rented and all that stuff. Although I guess there's like some enormous storm hitting there right now, so I'm less excited about that. That's going to be hitting and passing right as our plane is landing. So not looking forward to that. But catch you guys.
Hurricane's on my bucket list.
Oh, hurricanes on yours? Well, geez. Yeah, not mine. Let's put it that way. So, all right, we'll catch you guys on the backside, and over and out. 10-4.
See you.
Thanks much. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.